world in which you leave is better than the world in which you came, right? The world in which you leave is better than the world in which you came. The world in which you leave is better than the world in which you came. Because overall, guys, like the more you start to leave the world in which you came, the world in which you grow into is far better than the one in which you left. Because at the end of the day, guys, it's like really up to us to build upon a whole new structure that is within us, right? Because the more that we continue to allow for ourselves to leave that world in which we came for the world in which that is better, right? That we know in our hearts is better for us and allows for us to really start to blossom and free ourselves, the better it is that we begin to get, right? The more attuned begin to get. We attune ourselves more to sacred world, right? That's the world in which is better. Let me know in the comments what you guys have been doing to really connect with your sacredness, right? And your wholeness. And I'm very interested because this is something that I've really been delving into the more that I continue to keep growing and building upon, you know, the spiritual practices in which are allowing for us to leave behind that world for a world that is better, that we know in our heart is better. Because overall, we are loving awareness, right? We have that awareness within us. That's what allows for us to leave behind that world in which we know we must to enter into the world that we know we should, and the world that we know is within us that allows for us to really grow and develop in loving awareness, right? Because like without it, we would just be kind of just stuck, in like cycles and patterns and things in which that don't benefit us, right? Things that don't actually serve us and allow for us to grow along spiritual principles, right? To grow with source and to be able to integrate into sacred world, right? And be able to make our world that we live in this dunya a sacred world, right? That's like the whole point of why we would do spirituality is to control our reality, right? Is to allow for us to be operating from a stationary state of sacred world and bring that dealings into our entire physical world, our dunya centered life, right? That allows for us to be actually more liberated and more free because then we're not just being pulled around by all these things and dunya and being pulled around by these relationships and being pulled around by people who don't serve us and being pulled around by conversations and loops and things of that nature that we know in our hearts just doesn't align with the world in which we are building within us, right? Because the more that we continue to build that world that is within us, it will then materialize without. It just has no choice. And I'm not talking about money here. I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking about your best qualities, what makes you who you are, the understanding that you have, the wisdom that you have, the love that you have, the compassion that you have, the discipline that you have. All that is what we want to materialize. Because how are we going to be able to make the lives in which we desire, right? Materialize lives in which we desire if we don't have those qualities, right? Or the qualities in which that are your strong suits. Again, you might be really disciplined. You might be really good at um, hearing people out and or having deep understanding of some whatever knowledge that you have the understanding of, right? And you're consistent with that. Like we have to materialize those qualities first so that we can then be able to start really opening our hearts to the fullest integration of those qualities into your reality itself. Like if we don't do that, then the rest of it becomes a lot harder, right? And that's what I'm starting to realize the more that I don't want to say harder, but it just becomes more difficult if we're not integrating our best qualities into each and every aspect of our life, right? And the more that we allow for ourselves to grow and materialize day by day, the more we start to see these qualities that are within us that we're like, okay, excuse me, this is our deeper identity. This is your deeper identity. You know your deeper identity deeper than I would know your deeper identity, and I know mine more than you would know yours. But we can be able to express our deepest of our identities and be able to make connections, right? Be able to help each other deepen our realities and our identities. Like that would really be ideal, right? In terms of friendship and things of that nature, and companionship, and you know, communal, you know, spaces where we all take refuge in sangha. Like that would be more or less that. But we continue to keep deepening our connection to the world in which we not only left, but the world that we're now entering, right? And it all comes from within us. N- The outside world is, you guys see what's going on. I don't watch the news, but I, I turned that off a long time ago. I just get the downloads from the Lord Himself. Easier that way. Let me know in the comments if that's something you guys do. I don't know what you guys think about the news and all that, and turning that off and really just getting more attuned, right, to your body, mind, and to the intelligence that's within you that will attune you in just the right way that you got to be felt, that you need to be felt. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm starting to tap into more as I leave that world behind and enter the world in which that we always knew in our heart was possible. That stems from within us. The more that we allow for ourselves to build upon the sacredness and growing within sacred world day to day, the more we start to see. We start to really see, like, wow, there's a huge, huge space here for all of us, for the intelligence that's within to awaken us to the world that's without, right? As within, as without, right? And because sacred world is no different than the world that in which we just left. It's just moving up and moving deeper and releasing into the stability of letting go. That is what will allow for us to open up like a flower into sacred world. So it will give us the ability to see beyond what we can see, just the 98% that are the 3% that we can only see. What I think it's pretty sure it's that 0.3% or something. Let me know in the comments if what's what. But um, I'll take the 98% of the unseen. That's far more potent. What would you take? The zero point 0.3 or 3% that you can see with your two eyes, with your eyesight, or would you take the 98% that you quote unquote that you can now start to be able to see with your God sight? And I said quote unquote because I was going to say unseen, but you could be able to start seeing it the more that you awaken. That's why I was going to say quote, but you could be able to start seeing it more and more and more as you continue to grow and nurture the sacred seed that's within you, right? You plant that seed in the good earth, and you start watering it, nourishing it, and just extending that sense of the gratitude for it and the goodwill for it. Like the world continues to keep growing and blossoming and opening like a flower, the more you can relax. The more you can relax, the more that you can be able to start tuning into something that's far deeper, the infinite intelligence. The more you quieten down, the more you make the unstill still, the deeper your identity will surface, right? Your true identity will start to surface. You'll be like, well, wait a minute. A lot of things that I was doing prior aren't really, it's not really who I was. Right? And so it's good to find that out because then you're like, okay, well, then now we can be able to continue to advance our position in sacred world. And now we can really begin to start being more and doing less, right? And the more that we continue to keep opening that way, the broader it is that we continue to expand, right? The deeper we begin to go and the more we begin to start unlocking things within us that maybe for some time were dormant, right? That went underground for some time and that didn't really, um, you know what I'm saying, didn't didn't come up, right? Because we were so busy doing other things or trying to do this for somebody else or do that and do this, that. And then now once we can make this the unstill still again, then we can now start to begin to open up. We can begin to start being like, hmm, yeah, there's a whole lot there that, you know what I'm saying, we didn't quite bring up, right? That almost like suppressed within us. And the more that we can continue to open up all these apertures within us, open up our qualib, our heart, the more that we can be able to watch that seed sprout, right? And it's your seed. Don't tell anybody about it. Keep that seed sacred and personal to you, and watch it blossom and watch it grow and watch what kind of flower grows from the ground beneath you. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with another video. May the force be with you. Peace.